From here, we should take the collective group of people who've taken to the streets and work together across cultural lines, across generational lines, across socioeconomic lines to build a better Milwaukee.
These protests clearly show there's an overwhelming demand for change, but having that conversation about exactly how you can be a part of it, it can be tricky. We recently met Emerald Mills, who for years has been trying to bring Milwaukeeans of all races together over meals and discussions. She fiercely believes that real change doesn't come about until people form relationships with those of different backgrounds. But she cautions, be very careful of how you try to form relationships right now because emotions are still pretty raw.
I don't know a lot of people who can handle their emotions well when they're angry, when they're frustrated, when they're upset. So I think that addressing someone about an issue at this hour is important to have some caution. I think that it's wise to proceed with caution because of the energy that is in the air right now. What I would recommend for people that are trying to do more or trying to connect more than they have prior to what is happening currently in our country is to try to see what they can do within the networks that they have.
In other words, people at work who know you're sincere, parents of kids, your kids know, someone who will allow you to say something or ask something you would not ask of someone you don't know. Your desire to be part of a conversation is admirable, but start with the people who you know and trust. So, Mary, guess what? You and I are going to have even more conversations on this.
And I'm looking forward to it. In the meantime, let's look at this because it's a video that has gone viral. A protester face-to-face with officers offering hugs and handshakes after a march. Fox 6's Aaron Mabin tracked this man down and has the story behind the moment of unity.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
A protest for George Floyd.
No justice! No peace! No justice!
No peace! Making its way to Milwaukee Police Headquarters.
I want to go home! I want to go home!
Protesters and police just feet apart.
Most of them were wearing the riot helmets.
Amid the tension, an unexpected exchange is captured. A man sharing handshakes and hugs with officers.
Honestly, I wasn't going to do it at first.
Damian Patrick is the man in the video.
What made me do it is because of the heat of the situation.
Before he wrapped his arms around officers, we witnessed his passion.
White or black, it doesn't matter about color. Can we get one officer to kneel with us?
He says some did kneel and listen to what it's like to live in his skin.
My mom and my dad taught me when I encountered a police officer to move in a certain way, to make sure I keep my hands on the steering wheel or don't make any certain movements.
Patrick's family is proud of the peaceful protesting.
I was terrified to see my son out there, but I had to respect him because that's where he wanted to be.
The 21-year-old father of a baby boy knows improving relations with police will take time and effort.
What we want is the good police to be able to hold those bad police accountable for their actions.
And while it only lasted a few seconds, he hopes his hug resonates with officers for a long time.
I just wanted to show them, like, maybe next time they get a black man in my position with his hands behind his back or on his knees or something, that they see my face first.
In Milwaukee, Aaron Mabin, Fox 6 News.
Across the country and right here in Milwaukee, we've seen images of solidarity during these protests. Some officers kneeling alongside demonstrators. The act has become synonymous with football player Colin Kaepernick, who knelt during the national anthem as part of protests against police brutality and racial injustice. And these protests have awakened a new generation of activists. 19-year-old Shalaya Simon has never demonstrated, but was so shaken by the recent events, she joined one of last week's protests, and her gesture inspiring hope.
So my cousin and I were talking about it, and we were like, well, let's go to the protest. And we went actually twice.
Black Lives Matter, man! Black Lives Matter!
We went the first night, and it was okay.
George Floyd!
And then we went the other night.
We want one! We want one!
And then we went to downtown.
Can we get one officer to kneel with us? One officer!
I don't know, they just weren't too happy about us being there, so I just figured like, oh, they're just gonna stand there. And one officer kneeled down, and then 3 more officers kneeled down. I was happy. I was very, very excited because I felt like that just proves that all cops aren't bad. Some cops are bad, but not all of them. So we don't have to hate all cops because there are some good cops. I want change. I want the police to be more careful, more caring, because some act like they really don't care. Some officers do treat people differently based off their skin color. And I don't feel like that's right at all, because you're getting paid and you swore to protect all, not just some.
Now, the reality is not all the protest moments have been peaceful. So what happens if you get arrested, if you need medical attention, if someone tries to stop you from recording video during a demonstration? Fox 6 investigator Amanda St. Hilaire gives us a closer look at protesters' rights.
No justice! No peace!
This is protected speech.
What do we want? Justice!
Don't take my word for it. It's right there in the First Amendment. The right of the people peaceably to assemble. But what happens to those rights when this happens? Or this? Or this? We went to the experts.
I'm a lawyer here in Milwaukee, specializing in civil and constitutional rights.
I'm the director of community engagement for the ACLU of Wisconsin.
First, the most basic part. You have a right to be there.
A fundamental bedrock principle of our country is that you have the right to have your opinion heard on the street.
Some protests do require permits, but you don't need one to peacefully march on public roads and sidewalks, as long as you're not blocking traffic. And if you're lawfully in a public space, you have a right to record what's happening in plain view.
Democracy does not flourish in the dark. You want to videotape, video record, and share the encounters you have.
Police need a warrant to take your recording or demand to see it. If police are trying to break up a crowd, Milwaukee Police Standard Operating Procedure says they should first try talking to organizers, then identify themselves by name, declare the assembly unlawful, and tell you you'll be arrested if you don't disperse. The ACLU says police should also tell you how much time you have to leave and what exit route you should use. If you do get arrested, you have a right to an attorney, a right to medical treatment if you're hurt, and a right to know who is arresting you and why.
You'll see sheriff's department and police department will frequently have vests covering their names or conveniently placed cell phones in their pockets so that their name tag is flipped up or carried over.
If that happens, hit record if you can and start asking questions. Of course, you don't have a legal right to put your hands on other people or destroy property, but civil rights advocates say police actions at 2 p.m. should not be a response to what happened at 2 a.m.
None of this is easy. That's why we're doing this story, because you need to know your rights if you're going to stand up for them. Amanda St. Hilaire, Fox 6 News.
I think that this is an inflection point for society, and I think for him to know that he was here in some small way might be a point of consideration his whole life.